Okay, so our next unit is figuring out how to change percents to fractions and fractions back to percent. Okay, as you can see, our main idea is to express percents as fractions and then the reverse of that, fractions as percents. We started at the beginning of the year working on fractions into decimals, and this is just an extension from that. Our new vocabulary is percent, which is going to be something out of 100. Here's the TEK we're going to be looking at specifically. We're going to be looking at the 6-3B part, which is representing percents as fractions and drawing models. Okay, so a key concept here is percent. A percent is a ratio that compares a number to 100. Everything's going to be to 100, just like we did when we were converting fractions to decimals. It was out of 100. This is how you shade a model of 75 out of 100. There are 75 pieces on the grid shaded out of the 100 available. All right, let's look at this example of how to write a percent as a fraction. We're going to look at writing 60% as a fraction, and here's the really important thing: in simplest form. Remember to do that. So 60% means 60 out of 100. We write that as 60 out of 100. Okay, this is how it looks as the model. You'll notice that we have 60 blue dots, or 60 blue boxes shaded out of the full 100. That is 60 out of 100. It's the same as part out of whole. Okay? Now remember, we always want to simplify. We can simplify this by dividing the top by 20 and dividing the bottom by 20. When we do that, we get 3/5, and our answer is 3/5. Remember, it always has to be in simplest form, and that's what 3/5 is. Okay? Okay, here's one for you to do on your own. Go ahead and try this. Show your work in your homework spiral, and make sure that you have it in simplest form. Okay, now we've all heard people say, oh, I gave that 150%. Well, 150% is more than 100%, so it's kind of like a mixed number, okay? Let's look at this one. If we write 140 as a mixed number in simplest form, that would be 1 and 40 out of 100. So here's our 1, and here is the 40 out of the 100. Okay, so it's 100% and then 40% out of the next 100. Okay? Make sure that you understand this concept, and we'll move on. Okay, so if we're looking at that 140%, first we can write it as an improper fraction, which would be 140 over 100. Then we're going to turn it into a mixed number, which will be 1 and 40 hundredths. And we know that we have to simplify the 40 hundredths part. So we're going to take the 40 hundredths part, we will divide it all by 20 on the top, divide by 20 on the bottom, and we get 2/5. So our simplified fraction for 140% is really 1 and 2/5. Now here's one for you to check on your own. Okay, let's see how you're doing. You're going to convert 180% into a mixed number in simplest form. Okay, here's a real-world example we can look at in ways to write a percent as a fraction. Lunch. Use the table below. What fraction, we're looking at a fraction, that's an important word, of the class members preferred spaghetti for the school lunch? So let's see. We're going to have to figure out how to solve this problem. First thing I realize is I've got a lot of different things for lunch. So I probably need to figure out what the whole is, and then I can figure out the part. The part here is going to be spaghetti. The whole here is going to be all of the lunches. Okay? Okay. In order to find the whole, or the total part, we need to add all of these numbers up together. So I've got 10 and 15, which I know is 25. And then I have another 25 here, which I know is 50. Well, let me add this 50 to this 20, which makes it 70. And then 70 plus 30 is another 100. So our total is 100. Now let's figure out what we have for spaghetti. Spaghetti looks like it's 25. So now we've got a fraction of 25 out of 100 prefer spaghetti out of the 100 lunches. So we know the table showed 25% of the class members preferred spaghetti because 25 out of 100 is expressed as 25%. We can actually think about this in money, quarters, and we can divide the top by 25 and the bottom by 25, and that will give us 1/4. So 1/4 of the class members prefer spaghetti for their lunch. Okay, here's one for you to see how you're doing on this concept. Use the table to the right. What fraction of the students chose chocolate as their favorite flavor? This is identical to the problem I just showed you, so if you need to, rewind and watch what I just did again. Okay, let's look at this example of writing a fraction as a percent. Write a percent to represent the shaded portion of the model. Now I want you to realize that this whole entire picture right here is the model. So we know we have 1, and we have 6 out of 8 of the others. So we've got 1 and 6/8. Okay? So 1 and 6/8 we know is simplified to 1 and 3/4. So let's come over here to 1 and 3/4. Okay? We need to turn this into an improper fraction. In order to do that, we are going to multiply 4 times 1 plus 3, that's a plus sign, plus 3, which gives us 7/4. Then we're going to write 7/4 as the proportion like we did before. Remember, this is where we do the z. 4 goes into 125. 25 times 7 is 175. And you can see they did it right down here for you. Okay? So we write that as 175 over 100. That is said as 175% of the model is shaded. That means 100% of this one right here, and then 75% of this one. Okay, so it's 175%, one whole and 75% of another. Okay, this one's for you to try. Make sure that you follow the steps as we did in the last problem. Make sure you rewind if you need to, and have this done in your homework spiral, and we'll check it in class tomorrow.